fix that. Good afternoon. I was gonna say good morning. That's not true. It is definitely the evening. Welcome everyone to 3 Beers Deep, my weekly Q&A show, in which you ask me questions. I try and answer them. I throw some stuff out there, and we see what sticks. If you saw this morning, we played some more Mario Maker as we continue down the path of playing the most sadistic, strange, and interesting things that Mario Maker creators have to offer. We gave Dan Reichert of Giant Bomb's new creation a shot, made it through most of the stage, and haven't quite figured out the last bit of it. So you can see the archive of that over at youtube.com/PatrickKlubik. It's still, I guess, here on Twitch, but I don't know. Those Twitch archives disappear at some point, and I try not to worry too much about it. So let's get to your questions. You can submit questions during the week at patrickklubik.tumblr.com, or you can drop them here in the Twitch chat, and I'll address, I don't know, we'll see what comes up, but I've got a couple that I plucked in here already from folks that have submitted things throughout the week. Z-Rack says, I have kind of a weird theory. That's a good way to start. I enjoy anything that begins with, this can probably go wrong, is maybe a little bit strange. I think you left Giant Bomb to secretly embed yourself as a Twitch streamer to make the best, most comprehensive story about the streaming world. I'm probably overthinking this, right? I would say so. I would say that I didn't leave my job to go to another job just to study what it's like to be a streamer. But I have to admit, it's been super interesting and fascinating to engage with that stuff and to build, sort of my own community around the videos I like to make, the things I like to write, and the stuff I like to talk about. You know, one of the things that was interesting about working at Giant Bomb was that whatever you were streaming, there were going to be a certain number of people that tuned in no matter what. And that stuff ran the gamut in terms of interest. You know, obviously the more folks that were involved, that tended to spike more interest, as one would expect. And so, I was doing kind of my own solo work when I was at Giant Bomb, but then this is truly my own solo work, the stuff that I'm doing on YouTube and here on Twitch. And so, kind of figuring out what resonates with people, what attracts the largest audience, that has been really fascinating to figure out over time, because it is truly sort of my own audience, right? Like sometimes there's some crossover in which, when I was playing through the Giant Bomb community level last week, I mean, my numbers spiked to a place that they don't usually go to. There's not normally 2,500 people watching me play through a Mario Maker stage at the same time. Now, that was a confluence of Giant Bomb audience and a Kotaku audience kind of like jumping in at the same time, putting me into a place that is outside of the normal amount of couple hundred people that I tend to draw to various things. On the other side, I think the most that I've ever drawn was after the Bloodborne embargo was up. I started streaming, and so then that meant I had the game ahead of when people, the public had access to that game. And so I think I was doing something like 4,000, 5,000 people at the same time, which was completely ridiculous and so outside of what I'm normally used to in terms of what the kind of audience I'm dealing with. That was bigger than anything solo I did at Giant Bomb. And so that kind of speaks to what's interesting about streaming in that way. Is a lot of the stuff that I was streaming for Giant Bomb was often for premium members. So it was kind of plucking from a self-selective crowd that was kind of paying to be part of that community, or to get access to certain elements of that community content that wasn't coming anywhere else. Whereas with sort of like YouTube and Twitch, it's possible for this sort of cross-pollination to happen that can't occur when the information and content is locked to a single site. So all of it's been very fascinating, because I think YouTube, Twitch, all that stuff is going to be integral and interesting to the kind of work that I do in the future. Right now I kind of balance between writing and video, but I wouldn't be surprised if that continues to go in the direction of video as things move forward. Feel free to ask questions in the Twitch chat if you've got any. I'm happy to grab some of those as we move forward. Burncoat asks, any spookums with spookums this October? I assume he means spookum with scoops. So there's a couple things that are going to be happening. A lot of them are going to happen this week, in fact. So tonight, after a dinner, my wife and I are going to record the pilot episode of a horror podcast that we are hoping to debut later this week, in which her and I, at least in October, it'll be weekly. My guess is it'll probably go bi-weekly after that. Sit down to discuss, I don't know, we're still kind of going to figure out what the format is, but the current idea is to talk about a horror film, probably take some reader mail to discuss kind of how people feel about horror and what their experience has been with the genre. But we're going to record a inaugural podcast for that tonight. That'll go up sometime later this week. I'm not sure what the exact scheduling of that is going to be. We're kind of finalizing podcast art. We have to figure out the title for the podcast. We have some finalists that we're kind of working our way through. But that'll go up later this week, possibly October 1st, and then come out throughout the month. So look forward to that. I'm very excited about us putting that together. And it'll be the first time that I've done sort of content that is something I'm generating and creating and collaborating with my wife, which is really exciting and fun and should be interesting. So in addition to that, yes, there will be Spookin' with Scoops all month long. Obviously, there's my Soma playthrough that's going up on YouTube over the coming weeks. The Part 4 will go up on Tuesday. Part 5 will go up on Thursday. Part 6 will go up on Sunday, and that'll just kind of continue through. I believe there are 10 or 11 parts. I'm exporting the last bits of it, so look forward to that as that kind of winds its way through October. But in addition to Soma, there will be more to come. I'm kind of figuring out the lineup, what exactly I want to play, but yes, you can, because it's October, you can expect that we're going to be playing a lot of horror games in the days and weeks to come. So look forward to a more concrete schedule. I'll definitely outline what all of those are. I'm kind of actually looking at my schedule at the moment to see what exactly makes the most sense. So if you've got suggestions for horror games you'd like to see me to play or stuff that you think would be interesting, please feel free to send those over so I can kind of consider them in the lineup as we go through October. Seachers, what do you think of uPlay? uPlay was it's the sort of proprietary Ubisoft software a la Steam, a la Origin. Recently went through a complete redesign that, from all accounts, seems to make it look nicer. I don't have a whole lot of personal experience with uPlay. I pretty much launch it only when Steam forces me to launch uPlay, which then requires me to launch the game through that. I think that's still the case. I know that last time I was trying Far Cry 4 out, it was like, okay, launch the game. Boom. Okay, well, you've launched uPlay. Now launch the game. It was definitely the case with Assassin's Creed Black Flag as well. Definitely annoying that you have to jump through those hoops. I'm at least glad they put their games on Steam, which is unlike what EA does in that in forcing you to use Origin, you actually have to, you can't just coalesce everything into Steam. You have to actually use Origin in order to participate and purchase those games. So I don't know. uPlay is inoffensive. It's fine. I don't need another place with another friend group. That's kind of the thing that bugs me anytime that I have to load up another piece of publisher software. Is not so much that I have to use uPlay. It's that, like, what? Now I need another set of friends to add here that I have to remember if I want to do a multiplayer game with them. I guess I have to go into here, and do they have the same username as the stuff they've had elsewhere? All that stuff just is super annoying, and so I just end up not using it or just ignoring it to my whatever I can do to ignore it is exactly what I end up doing. Let's see what else we got. Blaze Hedgehog asks, you mentioned you wanted a haunted house experience that goes beyond but not too far. Have you ever heard of Sleep No More in New York? I know that it's not exactly next door, but I heard it's part haunted house, part roleplay, part stage play. I've heard that you're locked in a hotel with a bunch of actors and are free to wander and observe doing whatever, whenever, whomever. The scene loops several times, too, letting you fill in story blanks you missed. I've never been, but it sounds amazing. I actually had an opportunity to experience Sleep No More when I was in New York right after joining Kotaku back in January. They had the entire staff come out for a variety of reasons, and I happened to join right when that was occurring. So one of the nightly excursions that the staff went on was to check out Sleep No More. And it was a tremendous experience. It was something that I want to go back and experience at least a second time whenever I'm able to make it my way back to New York. I'm going in the spring for a wedding, but I'd like to make it out there before next May. But in any case, yeah, Sleep No More is kind of what as Blaze Hedgehog describes it, in which you enter into a space, you wear a mask, and there's basically an elaborate play happening over the course of several floors that you can explore at your leisure. The way it kind of works out is that you go there with a group, presumably, but then by putting on the masks, they kind of encourage you to disperse from your group, to kind of experience the world however you'd like to. If you're there with a couple, get away from each other for a little while. Go spend 45 minutes kind of exploring whatever you'd like to see. And the nice part is, like, you can kind of make a deal. Hey, go explore whatever you want for an hour or whatever, then come back to the bar, get a drink, talk about what you've seen, go back out there. There is an end point. There's sort of a climactic scene that they try and funnel everyone in to see at the end of Sleep No More. But otherwise, you kind of get like 2 hours, I want to say, is about what I experienced, to see whatever you want to see. And so it becomes a matter of sort of piecing together, what do you think you saw? What are the pieces that made sense to you? And so if you go with the group, you can kind of start to piece together the larger narrative that was occurring. I believe it's loosely based on Macbeth, so you can kind of, if you sort of look that up, you can kind of get a general sense of the arc, but it is kind of goes in its own way. And part of what's amazing about Sleep No More is the fact that you can interact with everything. So sometimes you interact with the actors and actresses in that they will come up to you, sort of touch you and dance with you and whisper things in your ear. But that's not going to happen for the vast majority of people that attend Sleep No More. What you're more likely to experience is the fact that you can walk into the various setups, whether there are actors there or not. I would often find myself drawn to going into like there was like a detective office, and so you could go through all the drawers, and in the drawers are these pamphlets, and in pamphlets they have things that are scribbled out, diaries, extensive logs about something that someone was observing. It's just so much attention to detail, and they sort of trust you that you're not going to take everything. It's just a really fantastic experience, and if you ever have a chance to see or experience Sleep No More in New York, I would highly recommend it. Locky Gamer, hey Patrick, do you think Dark Souls 3 is coming too soon, or are you ready for Dark Souls action? I am, well, so I would say this, that I am ready for Dark Souls 3. I've got the itch. I want more of it. But I might not feel that way as much when Bloodborne's DLC comes out in November. Or maybe that'll be the sort of the perfect teeing off point in which, by experiencing a little bit of Bloodborne, it's like, I just, yes, okay, give me more of this. And I do feel that way. Like, Dark Souls has kind of become my Call of Duty, in which, yes, Bloodborne was, I think, a successful sort of remix of the formula in a way that felt very fresh and interesting, whereas Dark Souls 2 wasn't. I think it was enjoyable. It was okay, but it didn't really, do it for me in the same way Bloodborne or Dark Souls 1 did. And so for Dark Souls 3, I think From Software seems to be signaling that they know the end is nigh for Dark Souls as a franchise. Now, it doesn't mean that they won't make another Dark Souls, but they seem to understand that Dark Souls 3 should be sort of the conclusion of an arc. And that Dark Souls 4, or whatever they try to spin off, they've talked about doing a sci-fi version. They've talked about doing a ninja version. They've I don't know if that'll be like an actual Souls game or whatever they kind of end up branding that. But my guess is they want to take what was successful and what resonated with folks about the Souls games and start applying it to things that go beyond the scope of what you've come to expect from Souls. Now, I've said what I'd always like is Armored Souls. I would love for them to take Armored Core and mash that up with what they've learned from Souls. I think that would be fantastic. I think that could be really interesting. Where exactly they end up with that Souls game, I don't really know, but I think that could be something pretty spectacular. Cleatures. What do you think about the statement from Sony stating there probably won't be a PS Vita 2? Did smartphone already win away the portable gaming scene? I think Jason Schreier of Kotaku wrote a pretty fantastic piece this morning as a bit of a takedown of what Sony had said regarding a possible Vita successor. There was a comment from Sony head of Worldwide Studios, Shuhei Yoshida, in which he basically said that the smartphone business had kind of stolen away what was possible with the Vita. And Jason's argument was actually Sony really never put a whole lot of resources behind the Vita. They abandoned it early. Not to say that the Vita isn't a pretty fantastic device if you're interested in remote play, if you're interested in portable versions of fantastic indie games. Then the Vita is a totally worthwhile purchase with also some excellent exclusive games like Danganronpa and things of that nature. But, in terms of it being a portable AAA gaming machine, like the Vita was not that. And Sony has, for years now, basically ignored the platform. They have kind of just done charity work for it by working with independent game developers to get portable versions of indie games on there. But for them to say that the iPhones, iPads, Android machines kind of came in and stole their lunch, I think is them deflecting what was a company decision to get behind console as their big bet, and that to waste resources from their R&D and their game development teams on the Vita just didn't make any sense. And that may have proven to be a totally fine, calculated move that have allowed the PS4 to be the success that it is. but it is sort of disingenuous in suggesting that there was nothing that Sony did. You know, Sony put in all of this effort, and they tried so hard to make the Vita a success. And, you know, not to say that they didn't make some valiant attempts with the Vita, but I think to just hand wave it as, oh, well, mobile gaming came in and just it doesn't make any sense anymore. I think that suggests that Sony was not complicit in what happened with the Vita and its lack of success. And I think, you know, as Jason rightly pointed out in his piece, that, you know, Nintendo stumbled out of the gate with the 3DS, but they doubled down on excellent software. They found a way to make it work. And even though the 3DS was not the amazing success that the DS was, I don't think you can argue that the 3DS or the Vita are in the same category. And I think, especially if you're looking at software support, in which Sony basically just said, you know what, we're going to stop making games for this. It just doesn't make any sense anymore. And I think that's frustrating. You know, did I want to play Uncharted games on the Vita? No. Did I want to play Resistance games on the Vita? No. And so I think, you know, fundamentally Sony maybe had the wrong mindset with what they wanted to treat and have the Vita be. I didn't want it to be a AAA gaming machine, but I wanted or thought that console level production values and development teams making handheld experiences could have been something special. And in some cases it was, in a lot of cases it wasn't. And I think that, you know, chiefly comes down to Sony saying, you know what, we're going to move on from this, and I don't think you can just kind of point the finger at Apple and be like, those guys, they took it away from us. I just don't think that's the case. Angel Extreme, what do you think about Konami's statement that Metal Gear continue without Kojima? So there's been a quote going around today in which a Konami community manager said that Metal Gear can exist post Hideo Kojima. It got a lot of play because there haven't been a lot of public statements from Konami, but I'm hesitant to put much stock into what is said by a community manager who is trying to grapple with a difficult question in which, what do you expect him to say? The community manager is, of course, going to say, well, I think Metal Gear can live on without Hideo Kojima. Now, I haven't seen the whole quote, so I don't know if he fumbled that in a particularly dramatic way that allowed that quote to get play, but, you know, that guy doesn't have any control over what Konami is doing. That person is not calling the shots about the relationship between Hideo Kojima and Konami. And so for people to kind of jump on that quote and be like, my guess is he was making the best of a crappy situation in which he was just not authorized to say very much. So he says the thing that makes the most sense, which is, hey, I think we can make this work without him. Maybe they can. Maybe they can't. Who knows if we're going to find out. There seems to be a lot of conflicting information about whether Konami is actually going to continue to make games at the scale that they've done in the past. I think it is possible they make another Metal Gear game. I think it is possible they make another Silent Hill game. And I think it's entirely possible they choose to do neither of those, and they're only saying those things right now as lip service in order to make sure that people continue to sort of support the Phantom Pain. So where exactly all that goes, we'll have to see. But a community manager saying Metal Gear can exist without Kojima, you know, it doesn't sound great given how everything has gone down, but he's also right. I think it's absolutely possible that Metal Gear can be a successful, interesting franchise without Kojima. Will it be something different? Absolutely. But in some ways, that might be utterly fascinating to see someone else kind of put their take on that series. At the same time, you know, having played through a decent chunk of Phantom Pain, I'm now 29%, and I think a decent chunk through the Africa campaign of the storyline. You know, the little quirks, for all the weirdness and ugly, gross stuff that Kojima puts into the Metal Gear games, the amazing stuff that is there also feels like that is coming directly from him. And so Metal Gear without that, we'll see. We will see. Dr. Mario Pepper, what do you think about Amiibos? I like them how they're being used in Mario Maker, but I feel like collecting all of them can be overwhelming. I have zero interest in collecting Amiibos. I have one total Amiibo. I have the Wii Fit Trainer because I think it's hilarious, and I think it's awesome that Nintendo continues to support Wii Fit Trainer as a character. I also intend to buy the Yoshi Yarn Amiibo because it's just so incredibly cool as sort of a toy desk thing. I have not even used my Wii Fit Trainer in Mario Maker, even though it would work in there as a costume. That's partially because I have mostly just played Mario Maker on streams, and I've been playing other people's levels and allowing the costumes to be dictated by whatever the stage allows in there. So, you know, I think it's Amiibos are a lot like Skylanders and Disney Infinity and now Lego Dimensions, in which I'm not someone that likes to collect things, really. The stuff I tend to collect, I want to be directly representative of what are sort of my favorite things. So it's like the books on my shelf, the games on my shelf. The stuff I buy, I want it to be sort of a snapshot of who I am as a person, what I value, what I find interesting. And so the collection aspect, like the pure just like, I got to have all of these. I think it's cool to have all of them. That doesn't do anything for me. I know that does it for other people. That's just kind of not my thing. If you're speaking larger to sort of what Amiibos mean, it's... I don't like the idea of Amiibos hiding content because I don't want to engage in the Amiibo lifestyle. And so the idea that some games only have some content locked behind Amiibos really bums me out. Now, granted, I think a game like Mario Maker handles it pretty well, in which the costumes are immediately unlockable by placing an Amiibo on the Wii U gamepad. But all the costumes, as far as I know, I'm pretty sure all the costumes, if not most of them, are unlockable by playing the game. So if they want to put stuff behind a gate that is more quickly unlocked through Amiibos, go for it. Fine. Do not care. But the idea of making stuff exclusive to buying a collectible toy really rubs me the wrong way. And that sort of stuff, I feel like, is what Nintendo has tried to avoid in the past with things like DLC. And I know Amiibos have been enormously profitable for them. I know it has been part of the reason they're making money right now. But it disturbs me and upsets me when I have to buy a $60 game and then purchase, a $20, $30 toys in order to access the stuff that is already on there. Now, in some cases, like I can't remember what was locked away in Splatoon. And again, Nintendo has not been particularly egregious about this yet. But I worry about things like that getting out of control because that's not what I'm into, and I don't want to get dragged into that. JIV, what do you think the NX is? Console, portable, hybrid, regular console, or something else? So early to say. I've been on the sort of the running theory that the NX is going to be some sort of console portable hybrid. I think that's a totally plausible theory. I don't know if that's actually going to pan out. I think we'll have to wait and see exactly what Nintendo has planned. It's already October. They went through a leadership change as a result of Satoru Iwata passing away. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't hear anything about the NX until the spring sometime, with a proper reveal maybe happening at E3. Kind of hard to say exactly how that's all going to shake out, but it's hard. It's really hard to pick apart because I think the idea that they're going to put out another $300 to $400 console and then another $150 to $250 handheld and ask you to purchase both of those again because they're around the time in which we're at the end of the life cycle for both. So the idea that in order to participate in all of Nintendo's games, once again, you're going to have to spend like another $500 to $700. That seems like a pretty ballsy proposition that I don't know that they're going to feel great about. But what exactly their handheld version becomes, I don't know. Obviously the popular theory is that there's going to be a small box that instead of the gamepad, which has to be tethered to the Wii U, that you get some sort of screen display that can be taken on the go, but that also can be connected to a more powerful box. Like, what if there was a way in which you're purchasing, it's either, are you purchasing a dummy screen that is enhanced by the console, which is how the Wii U works, or are you purchasing a low-powered handheld that is more advanced than the 3DS that then can run higher quality games on the box itself? It's not sure how all that stuff is going to play out, but I'm certainly interested, as with everyone else, to see exactly where they end up falling. Let's see. Let's get to one or two more questions before we let this go and come to a close. Catalino, what type of DLC would you like to see for Mario Maker? I know some people have speculated about getting Mario 2 as an aesthetic. One of the ones you can swap over to. I think that might be interesting. But if you were to do Mario 2, then would you also then have to enable all the characters in Mario 2? Because the different characters in Mario 2 are very specific about sort of their physics and how that stuff changes with the characters. So I think that maybe is unlikely as a possible add-on. I wouldn't mind if they got checkpoints. I wouldn't mind if the developers or creators were allowed to add checkpoints to stages. Currently, you cannot do that, and there are some stages that I think would benefit from allowing the player to experiment, and if they get far, then they don't have to go through the same gauntlet they came before. You want to make it optional, that's fine. Like if player wants to turn off checkpoints, I think that's cool, but there are some stages in which, when I play them for a stream, I think it's fun and I'm willing to go through the gauntlet over and over again, but I think there are stages like that in which some players would be more willing to have fun with them and engage with them if they knew there were checkpoints that allow them to sort of, if they get through a particularly harrowing section, they're not going to have to do it 10 more times because they got one lucky jump that allowed them to make it through. So I don't know if that's something they're going to add, but that's something I'd like to see. In addition, I think it would be tremendously useful if they added the ability to make playlists. So right now, you cannot create worlds in the way that Nintendo packages them in their proper Mario games, in which you go from 1-1 to 1-2 to 1-3 to 1-4. And I think I would love if Nintendo added for people to say, like, either they want to release a set of stages that function in a playlist as a sort of a world setting, or if people on Mario Maker, let's say they want to be curators, in which they're going to go through and they're going to find the best levels in Mario Maker and allow them to be the people that make the current kind of broken and not really functional search functionality work in a way that makes it more useful for people, so that maybe someone is going to gather up the hardest stages and you follow them so that you can follow their playlist and you can check out those stages. There's someone else who's doing the really creative ones, and okay, I'm going to follow this guy. Or there's someone that's doing autoplay stages and he's going to playlist all the best autoplay playlist stages he's found. I think that's one way that Nintendo can try and address some of their the difficulty they're having right now in surfacing the best stages that Mario Maker has to offer, because I think for the most part that is the biggest problem that Mario Maker has, in that there's a tremendous amount of cool stuff and I get to find a lot of it because I get people submitting it to me, but that's not the average person who's loading up Mario Maker. They're not getting thousands of Twitter followers who are telling them, here's what's awesome. They're not getting people on a YouTube archive commenting on, here's cool stages I made and other people made. So I think a playlist functionality would be critical, and I would be incredibly frustrated if they decided to wait until something like Mario Maker 2 to make that happen. So we'll see exactly how it all plays out, but that is something I would like to see in the near future. Hopefully they can start patching that sometime before the end of the year. I mean, when you boot up the game, it says version 1.0 or whatever the current version is. So presumably they're going to be adding to it. And with Splatoon, they've shown the ability to develop a game and respond to how players are enjoying the game. So hopefully that's something they would do with Mario Maker as well. With that, I think I'm going to bring 3 Beers Deep to a close. You can submit further questions to patrickklepek.tumblr.com. You can see the archive for this at youtube.com/patrickklepek. Like I said, I'm recording the pilot for my horror podcast with my wife tonight. Stay tuned for details on that. I'll be recording Match 3, my weekly gaming podcast with Gita Jackson and Sam Phillips. That goes up at match3.simplecast.fm. I used to put up excerpts on my YouTube channel. I haven't done that lately, but maybe I'll try and get back into the swing of that. So if you haven't listened to it before, you can get a slice of what we're up to. Thanks so much for tuning in for 3 Beers Deep. I'll be back here next week. Yes. So things will get a little bit weird later in the week. I'm flying to Seattle on Thursday night, and I'm gone on Friday and Monday, so I don't think I'll be able to do streams. That seems unlikely with hotel internet. So hopefully I'll try and record some things offline so that it can go up, so there's some things happening on Friday and Monday, but stay tuned for details on exactly how all that's going to play out. But otherwise, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see everyone in the morning for Mario Maker Mornings.